medical apparatus here, Anthony?
I think so. Okay, we're live.
Okay, do I get an approval for the previous meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, you know this. Oh, it's right there. It's not the copy you signed.
So is the 300 and some thousand that we spend on housing, is that up slightly or pretty normal?
So from last year, it was down a little bit.
Okay.
Typically, it's the highest thing we'll do assistance in is going to be housing, just because there's so many other programs for utilities. Right now, we're usually in a slower period for utility requests because of the EAP does the moratorium from January to March. So they're usually covered from them, and after that, they usually come to us about April or May. Tied in with sometimes once the tax returns hit, and we don't see people usually through February and early March, and then again back in April. I sent you guys got the AFR through email, right? I sent a copy last week just to kind of, and then want to go over it today. If there's questions you guys have, that's, feel free to ask. This obviously most of this page is the full packet. So this is the full annual report. What we put in the newspaper is literally the second page of the report, which is our cash statement. And we used to have to put our disbursements by vendor, and Center Township would take up pretty much a whole page of newspaper to put everybody's names, and people would be like, why am I in the newspaper? Well, we were required to. They backed off that a couple years ago, so luckily all we have to do is upload this and then a certification form to the newspapers, and it takes maybe a quarter of a page. The first page on the cash balance pages, it has our totals a little, it'll be slightly higher on there at $3,034,706.80. That has our payroll deductions fund in there, as well as our payee accounts, which really isn't it's the employee's money, and that belongs to the clients. So essentially our from about 3.1 million to 2.9 million. So it looked like it was here when we had $7 million, and through different trustees, we've kind of gotten to a steady state of decreasing slowly over time. Sometimes it was but we've been steady around that 2.9 to $3 million ending cash balance. A rainy day, we took out the park project in there. So we were, if you look at the breakdown, I think I made some colorful sheet on the back, just some kind of graphs and quick facts. So it was the total cost for the Summers Park project was $427,483. That was looks like a little honeycomb. That would include the playground equipment, the mulch, and then the parking lot that we were able to add there at the end. And that is all that we're going to do for the park. That was kind of the goal, get the stuff updated. And we had enough room in the budget that we could look at a parking lot if it was going to get priced out to us about $29,000. And it's not bad for what it is. So, nothing planned this year, nothing planned going forward, just maintenance, keeping up with the grass and stuff, stuff that we're already doing before we had to install the equipment. You asked about the housing assistance. Our assistance was down last year. Our software system that we use we have a TA7 and it's in that big packet of stuff, and it talks about, where's that page? There's a lot of pages in here. I think it starts on page 28. And basically, it takes stats from value. So like it says the total number of requests was 2,124.
28.
Yeah, it just has, 28 doesn't.
I thought I copied the same one. It should be, it's right here.
Oh, 33.
32.
3233, sorry. Somehow I got different page numbers from a document that came online. But this is usually what we say is a justification for our assistance of how much we're seeing people, how much efforts go into it, other than just direct assistance. We're kind of going through, and I kind of had talked to the caseworkers about, okay, we assisted 708 people of 2,124 that applied. The software, I'm not really agreeing with this at times, so we've been sending some emails to them saying, hey, this seems a little skewed, like, not that the total number of requests sounds about right where we're usually at, but the total number of recipients has went down. And I had asked Connie.
708.
708, that's what I meant.
Okay.
I guess the software servicer said that they changed the law and how things were counted, and I was like, well, we weren't really made aware of that. I'm not saying it's, we're still giving out $455,000, but to see last year we had, I think around, no, recipients. It was around 1,000 more than that. So it wasn't clicking. So I've been kind of trying to dig to see if there's something that we're not seeing on software that's maybe getting counted or not getting counted. So these are good, sometimes I think the data can be a little misleading. The numbers that are going to be finite are going to be your total dispersed, which is the $455,730. Not as high as last year, but I was kind of relieved to see it's not a trend of going up, up, and up, and more of a back down to level. 2022, we were about the same amount of assistance, maybe slightly lower. And those 3 years have been our highest 3 years in the past 10.
So are these 708 or whatever the number is, are they in several times?
It could be in several times, and then they count, like if you have a household with two, they're going to count it for 2 people. And the rules that they have on there, I'm trying to get them to clarify, because I was like, this is very confusing. And then we had 1,400 pending applications, which didn't make any sense on the system. And I was like, we either approve them or deny them. And we wouldn't have 1,400 people pending, or somebody would be upset with us. So I was like, can you take them out of the system, because they're logged as pending actions when it could be a denial or they withdrew their application. So it's just one of those things that I want to give the right data to the community. And I've talked with ITA, it's like a lot of people use this TA7, but I don't think it's always the best information, because I can go on the statewide summary and see all the townships in Indiana and be like, I know this small township in whatever county is not seeing 2,000 people a year. There's no way, but they'll have that figure there. Nobody checks it because they don't audit it. So it's more like, as I was told from Gene when I first started here, this is our kind of like our proof that we're doing things, and it helps us show things. And we are, and there's still things in here that I think count well, like it counts our case management minutes. So anytime they're logging time with clients, they go in and hit time clock so that we can say, hey, they're spending X amount of time. What the value of their time spent with them, that's where it's like a subject. We could say it's worth a salary or an average of a salary. But just things I'm looking at there. The second biggest thing that we would do would be utilities, but again, there's so many other programs, EAP being one of them right now, that we only did $107,850.17.
Do you do any investigations for any of the other trustees that don't
Yeah,
do their own?
I mean, there's I know Connie does some for a couple other townships on contract herself. I know a lot of other counties will do that. They'll ask the bigger offices if they can use their investigator, but we've never been approached to Center Township. They've just approached Connie individually.
Okay, because I was talking to Deb Asbury, and she said the guy that used to have her post was always having everything done here.
They usually, Connie's contracted with a lot of the small ones just because she's been doing it for 33 years. And she's usually the person that somebody's gonna call. So if she's doing that, that's usually on her own personal time.
Not during the day.
No,
Okay.
yeah. But the assistants slightly down, trying to verify some of the numbers as far as is it people down or, because the amounts are still pretty high, but I gotta get back in the software system and figure out what exactly is getting counted or what's not getting counted. So those 2 pages would be the TA7. And then it goes all the way down there, like how many inspections we did. So anytime we go out to a rental property, we send in a housing inspector to verify if their rental is up to code. And our guy is a firefighter, so he works here part-time. So he did code and inspections for the city of Kokomo. So we usually know we got somebody pretty good that's not just gonna go in there and not know what he's looking for. So some townships do that, some don't, and I would rather us do it. If it's an apartment complex, we're usually not gonna go in there because it's a commercial building and it's a little bit different on code. But any house rentals that are in Kokomo, he's gonna go out and inspect them before we can give him assistance.
And everybody complied that you agreed to give money to?
The clients or the,
No, the,
Community service provider?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the community service providers we did totally last year was 290,500. That's between parks and community service providers. We usually keep parks more as recreational things, PAL football, Carver Center, Kokomo United baseball, most of the, some things that are not really geared towards service providing, but are places for the youth to go or organizations like that. I've told them before I got in that I wanted to keep that number pretty much capped. And the first year it was kind of contentious and they were like, well, you're taking this away from me. And I was like, we don't have to do this at all. This is just something we're able to do. So I said, I'm trying to keep my board in check, make sure my board's okay with the things that I'm doing. And I said, this is how it's going to be this year, no problem. We had a lot of changeovers in a lot of the nonprofit agencies. So they were all just happy, I think glad that we were so be able to partner. Yeah. So I think that's a good, I always tell them like, hey, this money's not guaranteed. This isn't, I know a couple years ago, United Way was in kind of a PR nightmare because they changed their direction. And at any time I could say this needs to go towards our clients and not towards them. And I know hopefully, hopefully things don't have to go that way, but that would be a thing that if I said, hey, I need to watch this is where it's going to come from, because it's going to be either direct services through my office or these programs that are going out to these nonprofits, which I believe are great, but they have to understand this is not required by law for Center Township to partner with all these agencies. It's just things that we're allowed to do and trustees before me have done, and I'm trying to make sure we're just capped because we were getting a little out of hand there.
Yeah.
And we were on the same page a lot of times for some of those things.
You and I were.
Yes, the two of us. And I just want their expectations. I don't want to I understand how nonprofit world works and that they rely on those dollars to function, sometimes to get through the week. So, so far it's been good with them. I think we've added a couple. Let's see if we've got the list here. For the most part, I think we had anybody
It didn't look like there were any.
new.
Yeah. Pretty much the same group.
We did end up losing one last year, kind of mid-year, so Project Access is on there. Are they on there?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, they're just under mental health. Not 26.
30.
Project Access was, it's been a long time partner of Center Township, and they helped us tremendously keep our medical claims down. Since I've worked here, I've never seen anybody come in and ask for medical assistance.
Yeah.
we're allowed to assist them in those manners, but other than prescription drugs or burials, we haven't had a doctor's visit, and Project Access was kind of the key for that. But last year I kept getting kind of noticed that they weren't open to the public, and I wrote them a letter and said, hey, we're not going to send you a contract or a payment according to the contract. If you're not providing services, I'm not going to send you this quarter's payment. If you open it back up and start seeing clients again, we'll send the payment. So I think it was from after Q2.
You just get paid Q2 through Q4.
Yeah, so we ended up paying them just the one time for the year. And I reached out to the board. One of our staff members is on their board, and I was like, I'm not going to withhold it. I'm not saying you can't have it, but if you're not seeing clients, the intent is not for your bank account to keep growing while your office. And they've lost, executive directors, and their board members who help kind of run it. And I was like, you guys got to either find an executive director or figure out a solution. So they didn't apply for this year, so I don't know if they're still open or not. It's kind of lost for the community because they were doing dental services and stuff for people in low income, but I don't think they could pay anybody enough to really run it. And it's just got to that point where it was like the board members were trying all they could, but they all had their own careers that they couldn't put all their money there. So
In a way, it seemed to me like they couldn't do what they wanted to do.
yeah,
I mean, you can't, health costs are too much.
yeah.
And for them to get a certain amount, say, we'll take care of them.
And it probably hurts more than now that hospitals become more corporatized, where they, like back in the day, they could get to the doctor and say, okay, I'll waive this, for $30 we'll pay, but they can't do that anymore.
They
So
don't
it's,
have the authority anymore.
so I think that changed that really big. And I think most of the stuff they were doing now was dental focused. So there's a few dental offices around that will still provide services. So we lost that one. So we'll see, most of them, I would say they're grandfathered in. There's some ones that, have been here since Gene was trustee, and I sit down with them every year, try to talk to them and see, what exactly they need. I'm not guaranteeing I can give you everything you request, but, if there's something you want to do that's provide information or need, then maybe we can have a discussion and I can take it to the board. And me taking it to you guys is the way I'd like it to go from now on, because then it's not, when I told them the $50,000 cap, it's all me, and who's it's my decision whether or not these groups. He's like, hey, I'm not the only person that sees this. Like that, I don't like that, thought of somebody could point me out and say, well, you gave this group, that group, and why are you paying favoritism with this? It's not that. Like some of these contracts have just been the way they are. Heck, Project Access, when Gene was here, or Red, they were a $100,000 partner. I told Rev, I said, we got to go backwards. We got to go down, not because I didn't think they were valuable. I just think long-term, these are hard to maintain. And if your other things go up in your budget, you're sitting there, we're trying to figure out how to navigate different things. So, there's some big ones and there's some really small. I mean, there's a couple $1,500 ones, and they're ones that I'm like, what do we, if I said no, it's almost like, well, it's not even, what is it going to hurt for either one of us at this point? But they all, AKAs, they come and talk about their youth summit that they do for kids at IUK, and it helps give some of those kids a first-time experience of seeing what college is like. I was like, great, it's for kids, it's educational, it works. Bonavista is their community connections program, which I think has been their donation. They are DSI, and people, I don't know if you asked me that or not, but somebody asked me, what's that mean? And I was like, I know DSI is out of Columbus. That's the only thing I can guess, but they're part of a bigger corporation. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm like, do you guys need our money, or is this,
Well, that's always been like.
There's some that really need our money.
They got in so many ways.
Yeah.
That went down though.
They used, yeah,
Didn't they used to get like 50,000 or something?
they might have been around 40 or 45, but
Yeah, it's
But I know we
escalated.
lowered.
It's.
I kind of gave it the shock and said, we're going to come back. And then now the third next year to year isn't so bad, from 45 to 30,000. So, most of them we've reached out to, we have good relationships. We've taken, a few of us that went on tours there just to say, what's it look like here? Friends of Howard Haven is a group, since it is a county home, it gives them money to be able to use I think they built on after the tornado because they got hit out there, like to refurbish the bathroom, and then they have those two awnings on the east and west sides of the building that they use some of that money to go there. So, you know, they don't have any overhead. There's no staff. It's just a bunch. It's one of my old high school teachers, Mr. Kroll, and, you know, people that are retired that have an interest in taking care of these people at the county home. And they invite us out there all the time, and we go out there and say hi. And we did me and Darla went out there and helped them clean up one day in the spring, and it seemed nice. And you guys you're trying to get back to this agency, and we can't give money directly to the county home, which a lot of time are our clients, but since it's government to government, we don't really have a part in that. So, you know, as long as we got the money and the availability in our budget, I'd like to keep helping them, but you know, I don't want it always to be a life source of some of these groups, and none of them should be even at 50,000. Like FSA is so big, I don't think 50,000 is going to make a dent. Not going to say it wouldn't hurt if they lost it, but I'm saying they're not operating off of $50,000 alone. And that's what I try to tell them. We're not here to keep you afloat. It's to be supportive of your programs. You know, you show me exactly what you need this for. I can't just give you $10,000 to go towards a dream. It has to be proven. And that's why a lot of these have been on here for years.
Do you need a motion from us?
If there's any other questions, I did want to talk about a couple things that aren't really township funds, but that with the food pantry, we were able to help 665 individuals since June when we opened it, and we sent out at least 5,188 pounds of food. So it's so far, yeah, we're getting ready to do a food drive again in March. So we've been living off all donated food. Here and there, we supplemented for like some shelf-stable milk because we're not buying milk and you can't get it donated anywhere. So other than that, it's all donated money. We got gift cards and stuff from IBEW and Mark Jansen. Like people, I didn't expect to give this money. Started handing it out, and I was kind of like, well, we don't really need to take donations. I've never taken cash from people just saying, here, this is for this. So I had to check with state board accounts. Can I have this money back? And they were like, yeah, as long as you keep track of it. So we treat it like everything else. We track expenses. That way there's no confusion. They bought gift cards for Meijer. So we were able to buy beef with it, like ground beef or some frozen meals. Try to make it. We haven't used them all up yet, but it kind of made us limited because we couldn't use it anywhere but Meijer. This building, Darla had got me some stats. We had rented out 10 times to individuals throughout the year. We ended up paving this floor. I don't know, we had our meeting here last time. We talked about, we got rid of the grate that was in here from the original when Gene did it. Just because we wish it wouldn't echo, but unless you change the ceiling, which we're not going to do. But to get the grate out of there, we were just worried if somebody was in here and pulled up that carpet or trips on the carpet, that it would be a hazard. And the intent of this building was not meant to be this. When Gene built it, it was to be, there was a garage door here and there, and Gary was gonna drive his tractor straight out to Jefferson Street. And then Rev got in here and said, put a wall up, and it sat vacant for years. Not that we didn't come in here as a staff, but nobody was coming in here to use it. And I was like, I don't care. You know, we don't really have the ability to staff people to come clean it over the weekend, but you know, we had somebody over Thanksgiving, and I had a party. We had our Christmas Santa.
Cookies with Santa.
Then a group came in here right after, and then a group came in on Sunday. But I was like, look, I'll come in because somebody had called me that knew my family if they could use it. And I was like, sure, fine. That's fine.
It's worked out well.
Yeah, and we got the Kokomo Post. Is that the thing?
Yes.
They had asked us if they could advertise it for free, and then that was in the middle of summer, so we hopefully get some pickup. I know things like open houses and stuff usually pick up in the summer, but as long as we got available, we're still anybody's able to rent it. We get a lot of people around the holiday surprise when they Christmas and Thanksgiving. I was like, well, I guess it's probably easier.
We've got repeat customers too, so.
Yeah.
people actually do like it.
So it's cheap, and they get what is it, $50 for the day? 100 for the day.
It's still cheap.
Still pretty cheap, and we'll give them the key, and they can
And
come
there's
in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then we'll put out the tables for them if they want it. If not, we got plastic, like, regular size tables that we can put out for them as well. So it's been good so far. And hopefully, we only made $1,000 on it. We weren't doing it to make money, but it's $1,000 we wouldn't have had if we weren't renting it out, so. And then we got about 10 nonprofit and like clubs that meet here that we don't charge, to use the space. They usually come more consistently, and it's like, well, if you want to use it, you can have a meeting here, and
I mean, so they're having it sit there.
yeah. So we always tell people, like, if we ever meet with anybody, I'm like, if you guys want to have meetings at this place, like, all you gotta do is call Darla and ask, and as long as it's open, we're not gonna reject anybody from meeting here. I don't think we have any stipulation, just no alcohol. And worries like, oh, well, what if they have alcohol? I was like, well, I got a camera, but I'm not gonna drive down here and check what's in their drinks, but most people are respectful of the space. They clean it up. Nobody's damaging it. We put they have to pay a damage deposit, but we give it back to them. So far, so good. As long as people keep treating it right, we'll continue to keep it open. The moment it starts becoming more of a hazard and they start tearing stuff up, and we'll probably say that's it for a while. So other than that, I don't have anything else unless you guys do. I'm trying to make sure I highlight some things. The general fund, I did want to say the disbursements went up in that, but I actually had moved, our contracts used to come out of our poor relief fund. And I thought it would be more appropriate to put in our general fund. We get lit money outside of our property tax for about the same amount of money that we give out in contracts, not exact numbers. So I moved that over to our general fund instead of having money that goes toward the process of township assistance. Anything else, Comptroller?
No. Thank you.
I told him, I said, my trustee didn't have to talk at all with this. He usually made me talk. He's like, well, he probably didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, well, that's no fair. He would just say, well, Drew, and then I was telling Darla today, and it wasn't a knock on him, but you give like a state of the township. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, we're doing good at township. We're down a little bit in assistance. The total spending, it was up, I think it was about 2.5 this year. It's going to go back down. The park project was, 400,000 of it, and we'll start going back down to that 2 million, 2.1 million where we've been prior to 23 and 24. So I don't have anything in mind that I can think of unless something happens to the office that we need to take care of. And there's just really, we've got everything. The park's done. Yes, we have to do that. We're waiting for the spring. I told you guys about the concrete. We've had it marked. Luckily, nobody else has been hurt, right? No one has been hurt. So as soon as it gets warm, they'll come out there and adjust that and hopefully fix it. I think it's about $6,000, right, to have them level. We looked at doing concrete, but it's like we'd rather just get it level, fixed right, and they said they're going to do some other adjustments on the concrete around the front of the office. So that's it for the annual report. And then I think for this, I've never understood you can accept it in whole or accept it partially. And I don't know what that, maybe if there was content, like, I'm not sure what would you're just giving the report to the board. And I guess maybe if a board member didn't know that they spent something, but I've never seen anybody object to the annual report. So
it's what has already been done.
Yeah. So on this one, I think the board president would sign here and then also here. So you'll sign twice, Tom, and then the two of you sign in this option one section, and then we'll send this to the newspaper. This, for some reason, is not I guess if you want to make a formal motion, you can do that, but there's.
Yeah, we should make a formal motion to accept the financial annual report.
My motion to accept the financial report.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We accept. Okay, now you told me.
You said sign here on that line.
I read on that one.
Three of us signed on.
You guys look like you write in Chinese.
I did touch my
That looks Chinese. That does not look American.
I wouldn't even know what it would look like. I don't even know where to start with the letter.
I mean, look at that. Does that look like American?
Looks like my signature. It was like
I don't write like that, but my
That's funny.
signature is.
Either
We're
that or
unique.
it could have been
We're
doctors.
unique.
We're unique, that's what it is.
like kind of text.
Nobody can afford it.
No, I don't. I do that. Okay.
Hieroglyphics.
I look at my mom's signature now, it's like, oh my gosh.
She has really good handwriting.
Yeah, not lately though, I tell you.
Oh, I know.
She's feeling better, it took her.
Yeah. Oh, so-
Okay, do we have any new business?
Not really any new business. I just wanted to let you guys know if you're interested in some of the laws that are going out, 2 of them that are kind of targeting townships, whether good for bad. One is House Bill 1461. It is a road funding bill. And I went to that committee meeting a couple of weeks ago to listen to what was going on. And there's so many things in this bill that it goes from a wheel tax to taxes on delivery services such as DoorDash and Uber and UPS. And then it had a section in there, and it's like section 29 or 30, where it talks about townships and how their cash balances could go to the roads fund.
What?
So I had talked to Debbie, the executive director, and said, look, like if you take our cash balance away, it's helped us stabilize, at least here, our tax rate. We're not going way down and way up, and way down and way up. And I said, well, these cash balances, and I had seen some data that they had payee funds, which was somebody's social security checks, payroll funds, which are, obviously employees withholding. They had from some townships bond proceeds, which is, I don't know how you're going to try to. So they have this big number of like $686 million that they have a road funding issue. So they're trying to find creative ways. And I don't think would be impossible to say if the city or somebody said, we can do more to help with the road, but we don't have that kind of money. From ours, they would want to take about, what was that number? $2.97 million at the end of the year and give it and put it in a road fund.
That's your mayor's giving that info.
Yeah. And I was like, well, then how do we operate from January to June until we get our next property tax settlement? A lot of this money is usually pretty much in our budget process is allocated to go to that. And it's still, obviously a lot of these bills are still early. They're got to go through committees. They'll rip them out and put something else in. I suggested treating it like the rainy day fund. I said, I'd be willing to give the end of our cash, like our budget that's not used 5%, just like you could the rainy day fund. It would be like 70,000 to 100,000 from us. The funny thing about this bill, we would have to approve. You guys would have to approve the road project that the city wants to do. So they would bring us a proposal. We would still keep the money, but it would be restricted only for road funds in our city, or I guess we could partner with the county because we have unincorporated. I said, well, that would be a nightmare. So you're going to make me hold the money and then make the city come ask us, can we do this?
Take a vote, say.
No, you don't have to. But if we don't do it, then our money's sitting in an account that you can't ever use. So it's like this. It's not bad. I'm not saying you can't. We don't do roads now. I'm not saying it wouldn't be good for townships to be able to partner or to give some money towards it. But I said $2 million would cripple a lot of people. Like it just was kind of not thought out very well. And when I put it out there, I was like, this is not numbers that they should be using. Because I can tell you what number they grabbed because they had each township listed. And I was like, that's our in cash balance. Like that's not just extra money we have. It's
Yeah,
like
well, I think it's just,
But I don't think you should.
Petty cash.
I'd say we'd be willing to anything.
I know. Well, I know that's the tricky part, but I was like, I don't know if their bill's going to pass at all because there's so many different pieces. That's just one portion, the wheel tax and the delivery fee service charge. They had like
Introducing toll roads.
Yeah, things where it's like, you're gonna have to strip all this out just to get to one place, and it's like 600, their total that they needed was $10 billion in 10 years, $1 billion a year. It's like, well, what's the 686 fantasy money gonna do for that? And I was like, I don't know if this is source. So that bill isn't, I think it's been heard in the committee, but it hasn't been voted on. And then 1233, which is, I don't know if it's considered, it's local government reorganization, and basically they would make a county trustee, get rid of all the fire, we don't have fire territories in Howard County, but some counties, they rely on that. Get rid of all fire territories and districts, make the county EMS be the new county fire chief, and then have the county run fire, and then have an elected official named the county trustee that just does Port Relief. And and they wanted it done by next year so that they could be on the ballots for 2026. And the lady that wrote a bill for pretty much every township one that I can remember, at least. Her name's Karen Engelman. She's from Southern Indiana. I think that bill's going to change the way it looks. I think there needs to be some form of consolidation, to an extent. And I think it's going to look more like townships that aren't doing anything, aren't doing fire protection, aren't seeing clients for township assistance. Are you really effective, doing anything effective? Not that there aren't township trustees that haven't been doing a good stewardship of the taxpayer money, but are you really serving a purpose? Could you merge with another township?
They could merge. The problem last time was when they said that they needed to agree.
Exactly.
So it needs to be, you are merging.
So
you're not big enough to be on your own.
So I sat on some legislative committee meetings for the ITA, and what the thought is to make it come back to the commissioner and call them, say, hey, you guys are not meeting these thresholds. Like, it's not going to be we're not going to be the target of it, which for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, Center Township is not trying to merge with anybody. But there's ones where I don't know who the trustee in Jackson Township in Howard County is. I've never seen them, never heard of them.
I think there's a couple that never even have one.
And then think about how many there is in the state. So it's like, well, that's probably a lot of places. And we battle, in that committee meeting, there's people that are really focused on fire. And it's like, I don't have a fire. Yeah, I don't think a lot about fire protection. Not that it's not important. It's like, cut a check here, cut a check there. Does that make me more or less of a township than you? No, you just have a different ideology of what township government. Yours, some focus mostly on fire.
So that first part we were talking about, would they be taking fire away from all the
Townships, yeah.
townships and giving it
To the county, the county would have to have an EMS or a fire plan for the whole county.
You wouldn't be against that.
I wouldn't have a dog in the fight, but I don't know. Obviously,
Yeah, you do have a dog in the fight.
what against the county?
You're spending money with the mayor
Well,
and buying fire trucks.
that I would have a problem with the bill because it would take all these townships out instead of making yes, would our operations could be considered the most reasonable in our county? Yeah, I'm not going to say I have. It would probably look the same as far as fire for the city.
We don't care. Let's give fire.
Yeah. I just think does the counties want to take on what a countywide fire protection?
That's where the problem.
And is the EMS director the most, not to say they're not capable, but like, do they have experience with fire? Like the fire part, maybe emergency
They have no
management.
experience with fire.
So I was like, and then you look at maybe Howard County's better, but there's some of these counties where they're not in good shape, and you might have they already have disasters with township fire departments. You try to consolidate all those and then say, well, you're in charge. The volunteers are going to quit because they're loyal to a T to their certain agencies, and you're going to have all these inconsistencies of service. Like if county had to do it, it'd be best if they could do it at a paid rate, which would be more expensive. So it's counterproductive to property tax reductions.
You would have a county spending the money to contract with the different agencies.
Yeah.
City or whatever.
City or we don't have too many township
Instead of us
Yeah.
trying to do it.
The ones that would hurt would be like Taylor and Harrison and the Green Town the same way, and they just partner or contract with the townships around it. So that one, I don't think, it's very swift, it's very quick, and it's almost too much change without a whole lot of study on it. Is this going to work for fire protection. That's a whole nother argument. Could you wide access from east side to west side to central? I don't know. I don't know what it's like in town or in Sugarville.
For me, the big thing that you would get rid of that's really important is responsibility, liability. You know, I mean, it's one thing for us to pay for the help and ad, but it's also a liability on the township, which, I mean, I don't know that the township would ever get sued for not getting somebody there quick enough, but.
I mean, they could always pull somebody in as a county, what are they
Yeah,
like?
you never know.
Yeah.
Litigious society, so, you know, I would like it that we're not sitting under any liability for something like that could happen that really wouldn't even be our fault, but legally, we'd be on the hook for it.
Yeah. So those two bills are, the second one hasn't been heard in the committee. I think they're thinking about stripping it and inserting something else, so it's interesting how it's like, why do they put all this in here? It's just like pull it out and then add something else, and it's like, I don't know enough about that, but those are the ones that I was like, I'm gonna watch these, and the road funding one, I get it. I mean, if you can say we're gonna save property taxes, but it's gonna take everybody to make help for some of these areas, because I think our roads are good, but some counties have abysmal roads, and
Some roads are always under construction.
that's true. But that's only new business, and then old business, I don't think we have anything, and then the next meeting would be April 15th. And that'll be just a policy meeting. We'll go over our standards and guidelines, our personnel policy, and our internal control policy for the year.
Very good.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
I think we need to do that. Let's make a motion to adjourn this meeting today. All in favor?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. We're out here.
I second that was a vote for neutral. Yeah.
We seconded the agreement.
Slow, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna perfect that one
I
day.
haven't met my mom.
What's that?
Oh,
One day.
What's going to be funny is how many times the public council gets called after these things go off, that people will be like, well, they kept talking after the meetings. Like right now, it's not required that we have it recorded, so it's not real. But there's going to be points where there's going to be kind of like city council